Seems like we're live now. But,
It's streaming.
okay.
You just got to start your video record and we're flying.
Okay. Let me turn this button on. And we're ready to go. All right, everybody. Welcome to Ask Me Anything webinar. This is a little different. Today, we normally do a webinar with a PowerPoint and with a specific topic, but because each webinar we've been having questions and comments from people, we decided to gather all our questions that recently came up on different topics and put together this session here. So basically, the topics that we're going to cover that people ask questions on are construction, buildings, condos, contractor licensing, real estate, building permits, insurance, the rail, monster houses, and I don't know what else. I guess that's it. But it's going to be constructive content and um, casual communication, talk story kind. I'm not going to give you too much technical facts and all that unless you need it. I don't want you guys to get some analysis paralysis, but thank you for joining us on Zoom and then also on the various social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're streaming live, and hopefully you're here live with us. And the last time I checked, all the people that are on are adults. So since Martin, since we're all adults, can I use the F word? I don't know if anybody watched the movie Wolverine and Deadpool, but man, there's a lot of F words. I didn't count, but there must have been over 100. So I kind of feel sorry for these young kids that aren't exposed to that. But yeah, okay, I'll use some F words. This webinar is free, okay? And we're going to have fun, and I'm going to share facts with you. Okay, now, some information or all the information that I'm going to provide in answer to your questions, feel free to fact check them to make sure I'm not making anything up because I don't want to do that. I want to give correct factual information that you can take to the bank. So uh, let's get started. The first email I got was from a person who actually attends every one of our webinars, or if she can't, she comments later after she's watching the replay. But her question was, is this C-PACE financing a good thing? And if you're not aware, condominium buildings have had trouble with coming up with money to pay insurance and fix their buildings up, repairs and all that. So the government stepped in and with the state and the city council, they introduced a new bill. And the C-PACE is actually an acronym which stands for Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. And it's basically been around on the mainland, used by commercial buildings to get financing or better financing or financing where they couldn't qualify on a conventional basis. So the idea had come to Hawaii. So the government said, why don't we help these condo buildings and offer the C-PACE financing? Um, but it's not really what it seems. Okay, so it sounds like a good idea, but it's not really that good of an idea. The reason being is if you look into the nuts and bolts of that particular financing, in order for um, the condo building to get their funds, okay, the way that this whole thing is structured is that it operates as like a tax lien on the property, and they want to be first position. So if you have a first mortgage, let's say you finance your condo and you have a mortgage on the condo, the C-PACE will come in and they want to be first position. So your existing mortgage lender will be in second position. Well, how's that? How is that mortgage lender going to agree to that? Right? So they're not going to agree. So I see serious problems. The whole idea in general sounds good, but specifically, I don't think it's going to work. In my opinion, unless they prove to me how, I mean, there's too many technicalities on trying to make this thing happen. And I'm not sure it's going to happen. So I don't think that's the ultimate solution, but we'll see what the government comes up. So if you guys hear anything else aside from information that I'm giving you, I want to know, because in my opinion, I don't think it's going to work out. Okay, so we had somebody else said they possibly couldn't make the talk, but they emailed me. Oh, no, they put a thing on Facebook. Okay, so the question is, what is the code for balcony railings? Since about 60 owners have units with balconies at their specific project in Mililani, and the balconies railings have deteriorated over the past 40 to 50 years. So it's an old building. We determined that the code required posts every 5 to 6 feet and balusters not greater than 4 inches apart. Can owners follow these guidelines when doing repairs without a permit? So that's kind of a two-part question. Next question is, can they do repairs without following the current code? Our association does require these design specifications when doing any modification or repairs. And that's from Laura. I hope you're listening or watching or tuning in. So the answer is yes. If you're going to do modifications, you're allowed to repair like for like without getting a permit. Okay, except if the work that is valued over $10,000, then that would trigger a building permit. But talk to me later, and then I'll give you some more information about it. The other thing is, technically, you do not have to follow the current building code if you're repairing whatever was damaged. You're allowed to repair what's damaged following the existing building. So in other words, the repair would be grandfathered in. Okay. And there's a way to do that. The only way that you'd have to follow the current code today is if you destroy more than 50% of the building. So to make it clear, you can go ahead and do the repair if it's like for like. You do not need to follow the current building code. You can basically repair it as is. So wherever the posts are, the pickets are, just follow that as repair. And you should be good to go. If you need further information, just reach out and I can give you more. I know I've been to your property before, so I know what it looks like. Okay, so hopefully there's more questions and comments that come in. If you guys have questions or comments, please go post it on our Zoom platform or post it on social media, and we'll get to that. We'll want to tackle those in between answering the written questions that have come in. So Martin, let's go down the list and tackle the numerous questions that have come in.
Okay, if you can hear me well, we'll go through the ones we got on the construction area topic. First is, what are the key steps in starting a new construction project? Ooh, I Didn't you do a whole webinar on that?
Yeah, I did a whole webinar on that, but in a nutshell, make sure that you have your plan and what you're going to do, right? And have it written out, and make sure you have bidding done by qualified contractors, and your financing. So those are key. I wrote a book called Nail It, How to Work with Your Contractor. If you want it free, you go to our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, and that gives you all the pertinent information. In fact, some information contractors don't want you to know. I kind of spilled the beans. So those are the key steps. So reach out to me if I don't give everything you need in your answer, and then I can kind of expound. I know we had like 50 questions come in, and we only have 60 minutes of the webinar time, so we got to go through it fairly fast.
Okay, let's go on to the next one then. Number 2 on construction topics is, how do you manage construction timelines and avoid delays?
Well, on any construction project regarding whether it's like building a new house or new building or a renovation, make sure the contractor gives you a schedule, so you know from start to finish by milestones. Like, we're going to pour a concrete slab this week, we're going to frame the second week, put the roof on the third week, things like that. And when there's delays, like rain delays and other maybe material delays, that's going to extend the schedule, right? So what you do is, anytime there's a delay, you ask the contractor to give you a new schedule. I've seen situations where there was so many delays, and the schedule I got was 3 months old. In fact, it was the contractor was 3 months behind schedule because they never updated. So that's a key point. You always have to have a reference. Don't just go by verbal, because you want to be able to track it and have your follow-up paperwork documentation. That's always important.
Okay, great. Next up is, if a construction project faces unexpected delays due to weather, how should the project manager handle the situation?
Well, on bigger projects, when you're building, let's say you're building a high-rise in Kaka'ako, for example, there's a whole construction schedule, milestones, which are numerous pages long, and there's dates in it. So one day of rainout could affect the whole schedule, including all your subcontractors too. So it gets fairly intense. So the idea would be to keep adjusting the schedule and document it, because in the construction contract, there could be penalty clauses for stoppage of work, or being slow, or not finishing the project on time. And in the contract, it allows for rain delays or other specific delays, including labor delays too, believe it or not. So make sure, if you're building your own house and the contractor says it's going to take 6 months, you don't want it to take 12 months, right? So make sure you're protected by having the schedule and putting the schedule in the construction contract documentation, so it's all together. It's not all piecemeal.
All right, great. Here's the next one. What are the latest trends in construction technology? Nice.
Well, there's a lot of AI stuff going around. Now, a lot of construction in the mainland are using lasers and all kind of computerized spreadsheets to generate documentation and so forth. So there's, in the world of construction, there's always technological advances using technology. Now there's incorporation of a lot of AI 3D models and those kind of things, which have been around a long time, even a CAD system, computer aided drawing. So all these engineering students now in college, they're taking all computerized courses on how to draw, how to use a computer to draw, and then even generate 3D models and crank out spreadsheets, project management tools, and those kind of things. So when I was in engineering school, we never had all that. It was basically reviewing plans, drawing plans, and all that from scratch, right? No computer usage. So, yeah,
Very good.
that's what's
Thank
happening.
you. Thank you. And then the last question we have on construction is, how do you ensure the safety of workers on a construction site? That's a good one.
Well, the responsibility is basically on the owner, the developer, the contractor, and whoever else is working on a construction site. That's the main responsibility of the main parties. Now, secondarily, there's a government, which is OSHA. So people think OSHA's responsible. They're not. The people, the contractors working on the building, they're first responsible to follow the OSHA regulations. And there's numerous OSHA guidelines. I mean, the OSHA book is like the old yellow pages, really thick. So make sure that the contractor provides their evidence of having their OSHA certification for different kind of training and what they require. So I go on high-rise buildings. I have to ride the rig. I have to make sure that the workers are all OSHA trained. They have their fall protection certification. And then I myself have to have the same certification because I'm the one going up on the rig. I have to know what the fall protection guidelines are and all that to be safe. So that's really a plus. And all my construction projects, the number one issue is safety first, not construction first. It's safety first.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Lance. The next few questions are on buildings. And the first here is, what are the most important factors to consider when inspecting a building?
Well, one, you have to be awake and you have to look at stuff. And you know, bring along, if you're the inspector, invite people to come along with you. If you're not the inspector and you're a condo board member or the homeowner or your property manager, invite yourself. And so there's a little party going on, so everybody's on the same page, and have the inspector point stuff out. Like, I'm going and inspecting a property, and I want as many people there as possible, even condo board members. So when I point something out, hey, look, there's a cracked concrete here. Look at your deck. The thing looks like it's ready to collapse. And then everybody can see firsthand what I'm talking about. And I invite them. I said, you know, bring your phone, bring a camera, take pictures. I'm going to take pictures too, because when you go back and have to explain to your condo board or to your owners, oh, we need $50,000 to fix this one deck. Well, they can see what you're talking about because you have the photos. The photographs really, really help. I take so many photos. It's crazy, but I do that on purpose because I don't want people to guess. I want them to actually see, touchy-feely, look, you know, this is all rotted. It needs to be fixed, right? So it's more believable if people can see what you're talking about. Even like corroded cast iron pipes. If they see how clogged the pipe is, then they're going to realize it's very bad. But if they don't see the pipe, they're just thinking, oh, you're just trying to make things up and get more money to fix things, right? But that's not necessarily the case.
Very good. Next question is, how do you assess the structural integrity of a building?
I call a structure engineer. Actually, you go around, and if it's a concrete building, you look for cracks, like telltale signs, red flags. if it looks like a piece of concrete is gonna fall off, then that's a structural condition, right? If you look at a wood deck and you see the railing ready to collapse, that's a structural. All these are safety issues that need to be addressed. And you want to address it sooner rather than later, because if somebody gets hurt, then that's a huge liability claim. So inspect on your own, hire experts. You know, if you need to hire a structural engineer or construction engineer, then spend the money and do that. Because if you're a condo board owner or homeowner or property manager, if you're not trained to be an inspector, then you're taking on a role that you're not qualified for, and then you can get in big trouble, right? So that's just a word of advice.
Good advice. And this is a kind of a follow-up question. It says, what should be done if a routine building inspection reveals potential safety hazards?
Okay, call somebody to fix it. Now, if you're a homeowner, it's your own house, yeah, call somebody, call a contractor to do the repair. If you're on a condo board, if you're a board member, property manager, then the next step is you got to bring it up with your board. If you're a property manager, bring it up with your board and let the board take action. And if they don't take action, go to every meeting, send letters to them, show up at the board meeting, raise the same issue. That's the only way things are going to get done if the boards are not proactive. And if they say they don't have money, then that shouldn't be an excuse.
Hmm.
And tell them that. Maybe you might say, oh, I don't think there's anything in the condo law that says if you don't have money, you don't have to fix it.
Okay, that's a good answer. Next, we have what materials are best for longer lasting buildings and preventive maintenance, and hopefully safer buildings.
Well, we're basically using newer materials. Well, they're not brand new, but instead of like wood siding that gets rotted and termite eaten, is fiber cementitious siding. A brand name is like Hardy siding. There's roofing shingles that are upgraded. With technology now, there's even solar type roof shingles. So just keep track of what's going on. Ask your contractor, is there like better materials? And the contractor says, yes, but it's going to cost more money. So there's a give and take. I mean, you could build a house or an addition using the top of the line materials, but it's going to cost way more, right? And so that's probably why a lot of people aren't going for that. You know, we're modest income. We have regular track home. We're not gonna, this is not like a mansion we're building in Kahala, so we're not gonna put down the high end roofing material and that kind of thing. So it's all dependent upon what the homeowner's budget is and the condo board's budget and what they want to do.
Very good. Okay, and the last building one I have in this category is how do building codes differ between residential and commercial properties?
Okay, so there's numerous building codes, but for purposes of a standard building code, there's a residential code and there's a building code. So a single family house and duplex fall under the International Residential Code, the RSC. Now, here's where people get confused. If you live in a townhouse, right? Although it's a residential building because you live there, for purposes of the building code, it's considered a commercial building. So when you want to renovate something in your townhouse and you want to apply for a permit, like let's say you want to put PV on the roof, it's not treated as residential. Your building permit application is treated as commercial, which is a whole nother set of rules. So there's two different sets of building codes. Sometimes a townhouse building could reference two different building codes, residential and commercial. So You just got it. It gets really technical. I have the code books, and if I need to get bored, I can start reading it. And there's a lot of information. Even some architects don't understand some of the stuff in the code, and even DPP, they interpret things differently.
Okay, thanks, Lance. Now we get a few questions on condos. The first here is, what are the key responsibilities of a condo association board? That's a
The
good
key
one.
responsibility is make sure that the property is taken care of, like maintain the physical grounds and the buildings, maintain, fixed up. There's nothing in the building that's falling apart, that just on its last leg kind of thing, for safety and maintenance. And the other thing is to properly make sure that the budget, all the money is accounted for, and there's enough money. And there's two budgets in a condo. There's an operation budget and there's a reserve budget. And most condos, the operating budget is okay. It's the reserve budget that is out of whack. In other words, there's not enough money in the condo association reserve fund to fix everything, because they're not collecting enough money. And there's too many things that it's like kicking the can down the road, and we'll do this next year, and then next year comes and they don't have enough money, so they postpone it. So that's been a huge thing, within the past 10, 15 years.
Okay, thank you. Next is, how can condo associations effectively manage maintenance and repairs?
Um,
Big one.
the big thing is your reserve fund. It all goes to the reserve study. If your reserve study is incorrectly completed, there's a lot of errors, or if the reserve study is correct, but the board decides they don't have enough money because it shows that we got to increase our maintenance fees 200%, of course they're gonna kick the can down the road and say, well, let's just raise the maintenance fee only 7%. And then what happens then is you're just not collecting enough money, and then years go by, next year, and you still don't have enough money. You're in a worse situation because the board didn't increase the maintenance fees like it should have. So it's just everything gets more out of whack, and it just doesn't make sense eventually. And then you got owners saying, how did we get to this point? Well, if you look historically at previous years, the board never increased their maintenance fee, and the reserve fund, it was too low. So it's a combination of both. They did not increase the maintenance fee enough, and they're not collecting enough money in their reserve fund.
Okay, Lance. And then next question on condos is, what steps should a condo association take if there is a major disagreement among board members?
They gotta keep discussing it. If they can't discuss it, then maybe it gotta go to mediation. The right thing to do is probably involve your property manager and see what advice he has. Sometimes if there's a big disagreement, they need to bring in their association legal counsel, their attorney. And sometimes boards don't understand their condo governing documents, and they're going on left field. And so you got to bring them back and follow the condo rules, and then also follow the state condo guidelines. There's specific state law regarding the management of condominium buildings in Hawaii. So they would have to go back to that. And if they deviate from that, maybe that's part of the argument. And people would need to understand that you can't do certain things. Usually the arguments that people don't understand the requirements of the condo law, or they could be arguing about the money. One wants to raise the maintenance fee and another one doesn't. because of other reasons. So
Good. And here's a good one I know we hear a lot is how should condo owners approach remodeling projects within their units?
well, one thing is you ask your association, are there any design guidelines? And if so, you want a copy of that because you want to follow it. And normally the design guidelines should say you gotta use a licensed contractor that has insurance, and you have to get a building permit if a permit is required. So there's a lot of guidelines. Sometimes these buildings don't have any. But if they don't have any, it's not Wild Wild West. It doesn't mean you don't have to follow the rules. So let's say you're renovating your kitchen and bathroom, and your condo building never has any guidelines. It doesn't mean you don't need to follow anything. You still got to follow the building code and the state contractors law. You can't hire a handyman to go do $30,000 remodeling in your unit, right? Electrical, plumbing kind of stuff. So just be careful.
Okay, thank you. And the last condo question we have here is what are some common legal issues that condo associations face?
Legal issues, some of the recent ones that I'm aware of is when the board is not acting in the best interests of the association and unit owners sue the board and the association, it becomes a legal issue. And there've been cases where things in the building have not been fixed, like the drain pipes or your roof leaks, and the unit owners have to sue the board and the association to get relief to have things fixed. So that's already not a good sign. The board is not being proactive. Of course, if the unit owner is making stuff up, then you can shut that owner down. But if the board doesn't take any action, then you're just going to get in trouble, right? So try to stay out of the courts. It's no fun.
Okay. Thanks, Lance. And now we have a few real estate questions. The first one is, what should first-time home buyers know before purchasing a property?
Well, they should do their homework and study on what the protocol is to look for property to buy. One of the first things to do is, what kind of property do you want to buy, and do you have the money to buy it? So first things would be to talk to a mortgage lender or mortgage broker and to see what you can qualify for. Because what if you, oh yeah, I want to buy these houses in this area and they're all 1.2 million. And you go see open houses and all that, but you really don't know how much you can afford, right? So when you do talk to the mortgage person might say, you only qualify for 600,000. And if you don't have 600,000 in the bank, right, as down payment, then you can't purchase that kind of house. So you got to look at see what you qualify for first. I would do that first before you start looking.
Okay, very good. Now, next is, how do you determine the market value of a property?
I usually talk to appraisers or get an appraisal of a property. That's the number one way. The other way is you ask a realtor to do a comparative market analysis. Look for sold properties similar to the one that you own or you're looking at buying, and then see what the price range is. So that's probably the best way. You're going to get like a range. There's the realtor can't tell you your property is worth, $1 million without being an appraiser. They could tell you based on some of the properties in the neighborhood, I think your house is worth between 1.1 and maybe 1.2 or something like that.
Okay, very good. Next question. It looks like we have some first-time buyers looking to for real estate here is, how should a first-time home buyer navigate a competitive real estate market like today?
Well, I would talk to a realtor and ask them what the procedures are, what they should do. Right now, the real estate industry is like kind of upside down because of the commission, um, the commission percentage, which has always been negotiable, but in the mindset of consumers, it wasn't. And there was a big court case and all that that got settled. So the real estate commission is negotiable. It's not no 6%. It's not set at that, although that's standard in the industry. It's been standard in the industry for many years. And then the other thing is on the buyer's side, the general practice was the seller would pay part of the buyer's agent's commission. And now that's different. It changed. Now the buyer's agent has to have a written agreement with the buyer. The buyer would agree to pay the buyer's agent a commission separately, right? The seller's not obligated to pay a buyer's agent commission. It gets kind of confusing, but if you have any questions, talk to a realtor or let me know and I'll explain. And it's all on the internet. It's all available to read and stuff.
Yeah, very good. Good tips, yeah. How can property owners maximize the value of their real estate? I guess when they're selling, yeah.
Well, one thing is to fix your property up. Don't let it get run down, right? Is your roof in good shape? How's the paint? When was the last time you painted your house? If you said 20 years ago, you're way behind the 8 ball. So that's how you can maximize. You can do what you can. You can't change the location. You can't change the way your lot looks, but you can sure improve or fix up your house or your property. That's how you're going to maintain the value, because when an appraiser has to appraise, they're looking at your building. You can't do much with your land. There's always, value to the land already. That's like X factor. But the Y factor in your improvement, your building, if you let it run down, they're just going to give you a very low depreciated value on the improvements, right? If it's in very good shape, you're going to get a good value number for the building.
Very good. Last question on real estate we have here is, what impact do market trends have on real estate prices?
Well, it has a lot. If it's a seller's market, the prices go higher. If it's a buyer's market, the buyers can negotiate and the prices go lower. Now, right now, because of the insurance crisis, it's getting harder and harder to sell condominium units because of the condo association doesn't have 100% hurricane coverage. So now your conventional financing lenders are all not going to lend on the property. So it's harder to sell condos right now for buyers who qualify. They're going to have to buy all cash or get a portfolio loan, and the interest rates higher. So it's very difficult right now for condo sales.
Okay, thanks, Lance. Now we get some contractor questions, and I guess the first one here is, what are requirements for obtaining a contractor licensing? Oh, this is a licensing question.
Just pay the money and then you get your license. It's not that easy. You gotta study, take tests and all that, and get your. It's like continuing ed kind of thing. It's a contractor pre-licensing course. You got to take all those courses and pass that before you can apply to get your contractor's license. And part of the application, you have to have, they do a credit check. And you got to have good credit. You got to be able to be bondable, have insurance. And then in the components of the contractor licensing test, they ask you about state law, building code, and all that. So to tell you the truth, I don't know how some of these contractors even pass the test to get their license. Because when I go talk to these contractors building these monster houses, like they speak in Chinese, and maybe they have like a interpreter, or the test is written in Chinese. I don't know. I'm not too sure, but sometimes I have to shake my head how they pass. And when I see some construction that's really bad, I'm thinking, how did they even pass getting their contractor's license? Because it doesn't seem like they know what they're doing, right? So
Lance, along those lines, is there an experience requirement? You have to have so much years, like.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
You have to have like 5 years supervisor experience. If you don't have that, and you have to turn in affidavits signed by the general contractor who was licensed, attesting that you did work for our company in a supervisory capacity, and it's notarized and everything. So it's hard to like fabricate stuff anymore. It used to be easy in the past, where I just submit a letter saying I work with this contractor for 8 years and he does good work and all that, and they accept it, right, from me. And I'm not a licensed contractor. I used to be, but now they're very strict. I've seen some mainland contractors come in with 30 years experience on the mainland, and they can't get their license here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. And the next question is, how can contractors stay compliant with local and state regulations?
Oh, they got to keep studying what the code is and what the laws are. A lot of times I talk to contractors and they go, we've been doing it for 30 years. I said, yeah, but didn't you know the law just changed last year? And they go, oh, no, I'm not aware of that. So they just have to keep up with what's going on. They can't like live in a cave. Just because 30 years ago they did something doesn't mean they have to follow the same thing today. It may not work today.
Okay, so along those lines, another question then, do they have that continuing education requirement for contractors to be able to keep up with those?
Yeah, same like renewing your real estate license and your mortgage license and
Right.
your CPA, there's continuing ed, and I don't know how strict it is, but so when I give seminars, a lot of times they say if you attend a seminar, you get CE credit, AIA as an architect, or to renew your law license, you have to have so many credits. So it happens like that.
Okay, thanks, yeah. Next up is, what steps should a new contractor take if they fail their licensing exam? Okay.
I guess you didn't study enough. You better go back and study and
retake.
Don't fake it.
Okay, yeah. And then next up is, how can homeowners verify if a contractor is properly licensed? That's a good question.
Well, one way is ask the contractor, give me a copy of your license, right? And even if they do, that doesn't mean they're licensed, right? So you would call State of Hawaii DCCA, Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. There's a consumer protection line. You call there, give the name of the contractor or the company, and they'll tell you whether the contractor is properly licensed or not. There's times where the contractor gave a homeowner a copy of their license and it expired 8 months from the date they gave it, right? But then when that person called DCCA, the contractor didn't renew his license, so he was just using his old license and saying that he renewed it, but it wasn't true. So yeah, that's just a fail safe.
Yeah, and I know in a lot of your webinars you have about, contractor license for the right type of work. Yeah, isn't that another important thing, that they're licensed to do what they're doing for you as a consumer?
Yeah,
proper licensing for the proper work.
So for example, the contractor is going to do your roof, your house roof. It's an asphalt shingle roof. He shows you his license, and it's a general contractor's license. It's a BC, which is a general contractor. So the homeowner thinks that the contractor is licensed to do that kind of roof. And the contract even says, I have a general contractor's like, I can do everything. I can do the whole house from scratch. Okay,
Mm.
fine. But specifically, that contractor does not have the specific roofing license to install asphalt shingles. He can install wood shingles or shake, but he can't install asphalt. So don't get misled. That's why you got to look at the special categories of contractors. There's plenty situations I see where the contractor is licensed and they're building this $80,000 rock wall. And the homeowner showed me the contract and it had the license number. And she said, I called and verified with DCC, and the DCC said that they were licensed. So I called and said, okay, are they licensed? Yes. What are they licensed for? And DCC said tree trimming. Oh, are they licensed for rock wall? They go, no. So here's an example of the contractor still being licensed, but not being allowed to do certain kind of work. So just be careful out there. It's different.
Right.
You gotta look at the specialty licenses.
Very good. Thank you. And our last contractor question here is, what should contractors know about good workmanship requirements? Well, that sounds like a technical thing.
Well, not really. Okay, so in a nutshell, we go by the term generally acceptable industry standards. So
Hmm.
if the work is being done and you don't like it, right? If other contractors who do the same kind of work did the work, would they have done it like that, or would they have done it better? That's the benchmark that you use. Okay, so if other peers of contractors would have done it differently, would have done it better, then to me, the contractor that did the work was under par. So it's considered a workmanship issue. And a lot of times I get called because I got to be the person that decides whether this was proper or not. And in a lot of in most of the cases, a majority of the cases, the contractor didn't do the job properly. Only in the minority of the cases where the homeowner was expecting too much. You know, I'm gonna tell them, you paid for a Volkswagen and you expect a Mercedes kind of construction. That's not how it goes. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. And now
Yeah.
we get some building permit questions here. What types of projects require building permits? That's
I
the
would
first.
say almost every kind of repair, new construction, renovation, or whatever that is over $10,000 in value. And if you're doing electrical plumbing, that would require a permit also, provided the dollar amount is over $2,500. There's specific guidelines. So the DPP, the city council actually modified the rules last year and changed it to if you're doing like for like repair work, you're allowed to do that. You don't need a permit for painting, roofing, window replacement, countertop cabinet. So if you're in doubt, you can check with DPP or check with the state contractors section, DCCA, or give me a call and then I'll be able to guide you.
Oh, very good. Next question is, how can one expedite the building permit approval process? Is that still slow now?
Yes, it's still slow. I used to say hire a third-party reviewer and a permit expediter. Now the third-party reviewer, we're not really using too much, but I would hire a permit expediter, someone who takes the plans and goes in and or checks online and follows up. That's probably key, because if you don't have experience or your contractor doesn't have experience, then it gets caught in a log jam. And although the mayor came out in his address, and he said that he's going to speed things up. They're going through a lot of different learning curves right now because they installed a brand new computerized program to track all the permits and all that. So there's a learning curve on how to use the program. To me, it's getting a little better, but it's still not there yet.
So Lance, is this building permit expediter, is that a new kind of role, or is that
No,
something that's existed?
that role's been around for 20 something years or 30
Oh,
years or 40 years.
hmm.
But we only use the expediter for big projects where we're getting it's a multi-million-dollar project and then we need it. If it's a house renovation, we're like, no need, right? But
Hmm.
because of the backlog in DPP, it's just taking so long to get the permits or so long for DPP to review it.
Right, right, right. Oh, okay. So I mean, you would recommend a homeowner type renovation type to use the expediter? Is that the
Yeah, I would recommend that. If you have if you want to speed it up, I'd probably recommend getting somebody who's experienced
hmm.
in doing that. Or if you're using an architect or engineer that also is an expediter too, then that's good.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
What should be done if a building permit application is denied? That's a
You
good one.
find out the reason. A lot of times the reason is, and it's crazy. Uh, when I talk to people at DPP, I said, "Hey, what's the deal? Or how come you guys are like denying permits?" And they gave me examples. We got building plans in that had the wrong address, the wrong tax key. It had the wrong owner's name listed. And so these are simple things that
Hmm.
could be corrected. And the homeowner says, oh, why don't you just cross it out and write the correct information? DPP says, no, we don't do that. You got to
Hmm.
come in and do it on your own, right? Or you have a, a property manager or somebody that's a contractor consultant apply for the permit on behalf of the owner, and then when DPP checks, that person's not even listed as on the property deed. So they go, we don't know who this person is.
Hmm.
So they said, well, this guy's helping me. I'm old. I don't do this stuff myself. Okay, then you got to sign an affidavit appointing this person as your representative with respect to your building permit application and all that. So a lot of situations, it's not DPP's fault. It's the person who's applying having incorrect information, or you submit the plan and you don't have a survey showing where your property line is. Well, how does DPP know how to measure the setback of where your house is being built because you don't show the property line? So these things get it kicked back, right? Not to say that DPP is slow, they're slow, but then try to make it as correct as possible before you submit it. And then also some people submit and they're following the old building code, and the new code has a different requirement, and that's not shown. So there's pros and cons to this whole process.
Okay, well, that sounds like another good reason to hopefully the expediter type know all those kind of things and would make sure that they help you with the doing the form right or whatever, the process, yeah. So that makes sense then. Okay, next question is, how do building permit regulations vary by type of construction? Hmm.
Well, if you're building a stick-built house or built wood frame, the construction, the building code is different versus you're building one out of reinforced concrete. So the type of materials used dictate what section of the code to reference. Okay, so that's the big difference. So their architect or engineer got to be versed on the building codes in order to know which one applies, because they have to cite the code on the building plans. They have to reference what code they're using, and if they're using the wrong code, then it's going to get kicked back.
Okay, okay. And I don't know if you've answered this last question, but It's what information is typically needed when applying for a building permit. I guess whatever the form requires, yeah.
Yeah, whatever the form requires. I mean, owner's name, address, tax key. You got to have a plot plan, a site plan. You got to show your improvements, elevations, all that good stuff. I mean, it's very clear. If you go to the DPP website, it has the information of what's needed.
Yeah, it would seem like with the automation, it requires all this detailed stuff, and it should be able to edit that as they get that thing going, so that you put the right information in from the beginning, yeah,
Right.
to start. Yeah, so okay, very good. Well, that's building permits. The next category I have here is rail questions. First is, what are the benefits of the rail project for the local community? What does the local community say?
Hardly any benefits because if you look at the cost versus the benefits, it just doesn't make any sense. And then the only people using it are all the people in the area where the rail is. So you live on the windward side, you can't use the rail, right? Or you live in any other area outside of the area where the rail stations are, right? You're not going to benefit, but there's supposed to be the Kapolei Second City, and it just turned out to be a mess. That's all.
Oh, okay. Well, good answer on that. Yeah. What challenges has the rail project faced during construction? Well, you know all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually
History.
a lot of cost overruns and mismanagement and all that. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into detail.
Has that been improved or corrected going into these extended phases?
Well, at this point, because of the high cost of construction, there's no improvement,
Mm,
right?
okay.
So the bidders, I mean, their bid came back and it was way higher than what was anticipated or estimated. So um, you can't change that, especially if all the other bidders dropped out and you're the only one left, right?
Here's a good one that we've all had some experience with is, how can the rail project team ensure minimal impact on local businesses during construction?
Okay, so Hart screwed up. I can tell you this because when they're building the rail over cornfields and all that, there's no businesses there, right? It's easy. But once they hit Waipahu and they disrupted all the businesses, they didn't do as much as they should have, because I was part of a program to help business owners. Some of the owners had closed up shop, went out of business, because when you close the road down and people can't even drive into where your store is or your restaurant, you lose business. And so they did a terrible job in trying to help these business owners. They didn't even talk to the business owners, really. What they should have done was get them together saying, what do you need from us? And try to help out. They should have had a special program where you use some of the money to help promote these businesses that are losing income because people can't drive to their place or whatever. So hopefully they'll do a better job this go around.
Very good. Thank you. A last real question, at least here, is how is the rail project being funded? Still.
Well, if there's Hawaii taxpayers, Honolulu taxpayers, guess what? You better go in your yard and look for your money trees, because taxpayers are paying. The government is not paying 100% of the rail. It's your taxes that are being paid. The federal government is only paying a percentage, maybe 35% of the cost of the rail, 35% of a low estimate. Initially, when the government came out, they said it was going to be 5.3 million. So they went to the federal government, and the federal government said, okay, we're gonna give you a grant of $1.5 billion. But you know what the cost of the rail is today? It's not no $5.1 billion or 5.3. Thing is like $12.4 billion, and it's going up. So all the taxpayers are going to get hit again and again. If you're a business, you're paying for the rail through your GE. So it's pretty bad. But and then guess what? The original plan was for the rail to go from Kapolei all the way to Ala Moana. There's no money. So now the plan is for the rail to go from Kapolei to the city center where NBC is and stop. Stop there. Well, what happened to the plan from the city center to Ala Moana Shopping Center going through Kaka'ako? The plan's still there, but there's no money for it. So, but you know what? I bet you that's going to happen somehow because it's political. So we'll see.
Okay. Thanks, Lance. That's it for the rail, and we have a few more questions on monster houses. If you want to continue here, I know we're at our time limit, but let me ask those. We'll go through those. What defines a monster house, and why are they controversial?
Oh, because it doesn't fit in a neighborhood and it's like an overbuilt house. So you have a neighborhood like Kaimaki, and you got all these single family houses that are regular type houses. Then all of a sudden you have this house that looks like a hotel, right? That's a monster house. That's the kind of definition. But the true definition is you got numerous bedrooms and bathrooms in one house. That's a monster house. There's some monster houses that are legal monster houses, like Kahala, Hawaii Ridge. You got these big houses, but I mean, it fits in the character of the neighborhood. It's not these drive up St. Louis Heights or Kaimaki, and these things are like an eyesore, right? So basically, that's what I call a monster house.
Okay, and here's the question I kind of had next is, how do monster houses impact neighborhoods and communities?
Oh, traffic. Yeah, traffic, and then it's just like out of place. You got this house that doesn't match with the neighborhood, and it messes up with the traffic. There's parking problems. There's too many people living at that house, and they're not related families. If you talk to these people who are against monster houses, they'll tell you what the problems are. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess the infrastructure may not support too, like other places. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So next is, how can residents negotiate with developers to modify the design of a proposed monster house?
The answer is good luck. A private property owner doesn't have to listen to the neighbors. If he follows the plans and specs, he can build whatever he wants to that's pertaining to or in accordance with the zoning and the building code. The problem with the monster house developers is they're not following the building code. They're adding more bedrooms, more bathrooms, and creating problems.
Very good. Next is, what regulations are in place to control the construction of monster houses?
Oh, there's regulations in place already to follow the building codes, and then the city adopted additional restrictions regarding the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, one laundry, parking, and all that. So it's just these developers haven't really followed what they should have, and then created a nuisance. So the city had to get involved and put more restrictions on.
Yeah, but then it sounds like more of a compliance issue. So why isn't there a compliance follow-up, like an audit on any other type of business or project or whatever? Yeah. Isn't there something that would stop it before it even gets this far?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The DPP is like backlog right now. They're not
Okay.
monitoring every single monster house. The thing with DPP is they're not going to do anything on their own. You have to file a complaint first before they start investigating, right? Unless the
Got it.
inspector happens to go take a look, right? So
Right,
that's
right.
just been a problem. By the way, I wrote a book on monster houses. If you
Oh, yes.
want to read it, it's on our website.
Okay, and the final one I have on my submitted list of questions is, how do monster houses affect property values and local infrastructure? Huh?
Well, that's kind of a weird one because if they have too many bathrooms, they're tapping into the sewer system or the plumbing system and using more water and more sewage. I don't think that's a big a problem as the parking and just too many people on one property. Um, if it's legal, fine. If it's not, then it becomes an issue. So.
Okay, well, that's all that we've gotten received. I'm not sure if you have any others that you got there, Lance, but
Yeah, was there anybody that asked
oh,
questions on our
I
social
did
media
see. Yeah,
platforms?
I got into the questions and answers and forgot to check on Facebook. Oh, nobody submitted any questions there today. And let's see about LinkedIn. What else we get over here? No, everybody's kind of just listening to your
Okay, well,
question and
that's
answers.
good. Thank you everybody for listening in. By the way, every single one of these topics, I already gave a webinar for construction, building, condos, contractor licensing, building permits, monster houses. I'm not sure if I gave one about the rail, but you go to our
Oh, you
website,
did.
askbuildingexpert.now.site, askbuildingexpert.now.site. Go to our webinars. You can watch any one of your selection or watch all of them if you want. If you want the free books, you go to that same website and you go on the publications page and you can download the book for free. By the way, I just came out with a book recently called Mindset Matters that I helped write with 20 something other authors. It's on sale, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It hit the bestseller list last week, but you don't need to buy the book. Just wait and then I'll give it to you free. I'm waiting for the publisher to give me the PDF and then I'll share it with you guys. So if you have any questions that come up later, I know I had a few other subject titles that I was going to talk about. Um, Condo construction loan, global warming, Lahaina fire settlement, and then condo insurance, but we kind of ran out of time. But this is a kind of different format, but it mainly talk story to answer questions that come up. We welcome other questions, even if it doesn't pertain to the subject matter we discussed, because we're open. We want to share information and help everybody with regarding any topics that we talk about. We don't talk about religion or politics or sex and rock and roll, although I can't talk about rock and roll, but yeah, we just try to
Okay.
help people. And so go to our website, tune in, watch our webinars. Oh, you know what? I forgot to, well, you guys are still here. Here's what's coming up, okay? Future webinars, construction terminology, mumbo jumbo with contractors. You understand contractors speak. And then after that one, it's oh, here's a biggie. Hawaii's condo insurance crisis. I'm going to be talking about that. After that, history of major disasters in Hawaii, and then historical overview of coastal erosion at Kahana Sunset. That's a condo project on Maui. That's like two buildings are like falling in the ocean kind of thing. After that is Let's Talk BS, building safety, And then build your home to protect from wildfire. That's like mainly for our Lahaina people. And then in December, we got one, home safety for the holidays. I'll be talking about electrical, make sure your Christmas tree doesn't catch on fire, that kind of stuff. So I know we went a little overtime, but that's okay. It's all good. You guys are still hanging in there. Nobody like said you're too boring and left. So that's a good thing, right? Also, some of you had participated and watched our webinar that I gave on the Sagrada Familia. And we did a drawing, and guess what? Paula, you're still on or you're listening. You're the winner. You're selected. So if you go on Facebook and message me your mailing address, I'll mail you that collectible keychain. Okay, congratulations, you're the winner. See, we give stuff away too. So, all right. So on behalf of Martin Pea, myself, Lance Luke, thank you for attending. Hope to see you at the next webinar. Aloha, mahalo.
Aloha.